Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If after listening to this video, this information interests you, please feel free to press the like and subscribe button and the bell for notifications. If you have any questions about Maitreya or the Masters of Wisdom, simply post your question as a comment, or you can email me directly at searchforsigns@mail.com. Well, good day to you. It is September the 1st, 2020, and I hope you're having as good a day as I am. You know why I'm having a good day? Because I'm playing hooky from work. And if you've ever played hooky from school or work, you know you always have a good day after that, so, or while you're playing hooky. But anyway, before I get into the question and comment and Benjamin Creme's Master's article, I want to draw your attention to this historical figure. This historical figure's name is Federico Garcia Lorca. Now, who was he? More than likely, you have no idea who this person was, because I didn't know who he was until just maybe 20 years ago or so. He was a Spanish poet. Now, he was also very much of an advocate for social justice during his time, so much so that he rattled the cages of the establishment enough that they actually had him killed for it. And so he suffered the fate of so many progressives throughout history. When the reactionary forces feel threatened, they definitely have no problem taking somebody's life. Now, the reason why I'm talking about Federico Lorca is because of that quote. I first read this quote probably 2 decades or more ago on the back cover of Share International magazine. They have a black and white photo, usually of poverty or starvation, and then there will be a quotation or some kind of numbers about poverty or whatever. And this month just happened to be this quote that I'm about to read to you. It says, "The day hunger disappears, the world will see the greatest spiritual explosion humanity has ever seen." I do think he is 100% correct. And I think that when humanity finally comes to grips with the need to end hunger, and we do it rather rapidly, maybe not overnight, but not too long, because we have the resources, right? Once it happens and hunger is totally eradicated, for those of us who, to quote the master, love has not been fully extinguished from our hearts, there will be a release of such joy, it will create a spiritual explosion around the world. It'll be as if a weight has been lifted off of our heart, you know. Why do I say that? For the most part, all of us are guilty of this, but especially in the United States, it's quite pronounced. We live life in relative isolation. Now, we do care about our family and our friends, maybe our co-workers or this, that, and the other, and that's all great, fine, and wonderful. But for the most part, if it's happening on the other side of town or the other side of the country, or the other side of the world even, you know, if it's not happening to me, you know, oh, well, it's not that big. Nothing I can do about it. You know, I'm fine, right? That kind of thing. Well, I think because of the nature of the world today with the coronavirus, for instance, and now the economic crisis that is just really taking off because there's massive unemployment in this country, for instance. I was speaking to the Americans right now, and our government is not really concerned about the unemployment. They just want us to get back to work kind of deal, and there's no jobs to go to and that kind of thing. So they cut the money off, and then they cut the moratorium on evictions and so forth. Well, now there's tens of millions of people who are going to be feeling the effect of it this month. You know, this is the first of the month, right? And that will, I think, lead to a whole other wave of unemployment because they won't be spending the money the way that they have even been doing over the past few months, let alone before this whole coronavirus. So it's going to be even worse, you know, over the coming months, right? And with the fact that we're living in such a world of instant communication, that we will become, you know, face to face with this daily, where even our politicians, I'll give you an example. Ron Paul, who's a senator from Kentucky, not one of my favorite senators out there, but whatever, as Maitreya says, you know, only notice the good things that they do, you know. So I'm not going to judge them whether he's good or bad. I'll just try to notice the good things that they do. But anyway, just the other day was horrified that he was surrounded by protesters. He called them a mob, right? Now, they were peaceful, but they were angry, right? And they were in his face, he and his wife walking from the hotel. He's not used to that at all. He's used to being able to tune that old thing out, right? If you got a problem, talk to my office, and then we'll send you an auto-generated mail with a stamp of my signature on it, telling you basically to piss off, right? And that's basically been the extent of it. Well, now they're getting in their face. Well, he was horrified. He was scared. He was scared for his life, right? He should be scared for his political life because they weren't pulling out guns on him. But, what's going to happen over the next few months with the coronavirus and with the economic crash and everything that's going on is, I think people are starting to wake up to the fact that they need to say something. They can't just sit back and take it the way that they've been taking it. So I do think that this is going to speed up what we've been talking about these many months on this channel, that Maitreya is speaking to humanity directly, but in incognito. He's not being recognized for anything special. He's only being introduced as an ordinary person. He's only presenting himself as an ordinary person, but he's anything but an ordinary person. Now, you might not believe what I believe, but because I've had the experiences that I have, I know he's the Lord of love. I know he's the one that's awaited by all the world's religions, whether they are aware of it or not. I know that he's who Benjamin Creme says that he is. And so if what I'm saying is true, and I'll just leave it like that, he's been speaking on TV in the way that he's been speaking on TV, he will start to speak, in a way that's it will become easier and easier and easier for people to recognize who he is. Now, for those of us who've heard about this information on whatever level we've heard on it, it will be a lot, of course, easier for us to recognize him as Maitreya. For those of us who have maybe never heard this information, we will start to recognize him as something quite extraordinary rather than ordinary. He'll be a person who will not align himself with any country, any political persuasion, or anything. He will be speaking for the people. Now, as Federico Lorca said, talking about hunger, right? Well, imagine being one of those people who are hungry, who are maybe watching a close family member die needlessly because of hunger, and then compound it with the fact that nobody in the world gives a shit about the fact that your son just died, or your wife just died, or your husband just died, or whoever it happens to be, right? And as Maitreya says, within the seeds of that inequality is the seeds of a third world war, which will end all life on this planet. That's the danger in it. Maitreya also said that insofar as man can relate to man, they can so relate to God. So if you're not relating man to man, or person to person, if you want to look at it like that, the reason why they say man and not woman or whatever is we're humanity. We're all sons of mind, and that's the way the masters look at it. But anyway, the reason why, it's important for us to relate that way, because you can't just say that you relate truly with God if you're not serving your fellow brothers and sisters. You can't look at it like that. And you can't call yourself divine or say that you're a Christian and allow people to starve to death. I mean, Jesus even talked about it 2,000 years ago. It was just as important to Jesus 2,000 years ago that we take care of each other as it is today, right? So you look at it like that. Now, under the influence of Maitreya, once Maitreya starts to really speak more directly to humanity, okay? This leads me to my question from Jocko Vane, who said, but when, in regards to when will Maitreya's Day of Declaration finally come, okay? You really should ask, not but when will humanity finally start to respond to what Maitreya's already been saying, is really what the question should be. Maitreya is not going to come out on the Day of Declaration until enough people are starting to respond to what he's been talking about. That's the point, right? So it's not Maitreya, it's us. It's humanity that's not responding. He's not the problem. We're the problem. Now, I do think that the coronavirus and the economic problem that's going on will rattle enough people to where we'll start to, wait a second, this is happening to me now. Now what? I have no money coming in. I have no food for my family. Now what? I need to, So those people who probably maybe 2 or 3 years ago weren't that really interested in the world changing, or will be a lot more interested in the world changing because it's really affecting them. And I think that's where we're going to be at over the next few months. So it will affect everybody because it's supposed to affect everybody. We all need to make the changes. Now, there's some of us who it might be a little harder for them to kind of get it than others. Maybe they're more dogmatic toward their own belief, or they just are totally devoid of any kind of soul contact, I guess, for lack of a better word. So where they won't be that interested in it. But for a lot of people, it will be quite a big concern. And Maitreya will start to be that voice for those people who are dying of hunger every day, who don't have a voice. He will articulate the problem so that you and I and other people who are interested in change will start to say, yes, we need to do this. He will also be the voice of those people who don't have a voice in government. Right now, the masses of people do not really have a voice in government. That's why they're angry. And they're angry because they're not listening. And Maitreya will be the leader that will lead the people to a constructive reform, really. And also to get those complacent elitists to finally start to listen. Like, hey, if you don't listen to us, you're out, right? That kind of thing. So anyway, but yes, I do think that what Federico Lorca said, when we finally tackle hunger, it will be this huge joy that will come in and of itself. And then you look at the environment. As much as people deny the pollution that's out there, it's not a problem, it's this. When those people even start to see the effects of the transformation, once we start to tackle that problem, they'll look and go, wow, I can actually breathe now. Or man, I don't feel quite as ill or quite as tired as fatigued as I always am. I'm feeling more energized now. And they'll start to realize that maybe there's some change there that we need to look at and that's kind of thing. So that's where I think that, it's a hopeful message, but it's also, we have to be very concerned about the time, but we also have to look at what are we going through and why are we going through it? And I think that the coronavirus and the economic problem right now is really there for humanity, so we start to look at what happens on the other side of the world does affect us. And with people marching, Black Lives Matter and all those kind of things, a lot of those marches are right down the street from where we live. They're not on the other side of the city. So it's okay. It's kind of like there. And it will only get worse before it gets better, I think. So, but again, trying to present a hopeful message to this, and this is the reason why we're talking about this as much as you are. So hopefully this helps. Now, the comment I wanted to talk about was actually not really related to what I was just talking about, actually. It was more of a biblical video that I did several months ago. Somebody put up, his name was Scott Gray. I mentioned that Benjamin Creme's master said that Maitreya was specifically mentioned in the Bible. He said one time, I think it's actually twice. I don't think that Benjamin Creme talked about the second time. But anyway, we'll talk about that again in a future video. I don't want to go too long in it, but the comment that this person was talking about, according to Benjamin Creme's master, in the Bible, right before Jesus told his disciples to go set up for the Lord's Supper or the Last Supper or whatever you want to call it, he said to his disciples to follow the person carrying the bucket of water into the house and thus prepare the feast. Okay, so that apparently, according to the masters, was a specific reference to Maitreya being the world teacher for this coming age of Aquarius. He also mentioned that the symbol for the fish was used all throughout the New Testament. Not at all in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, it was all throughout the New Testament. The symbols for all the constellations, but the symbol for the fish is representative of the constellation of Pisces, okay? And the symbol of the water carrier is representative of the constellation of Aquarius. Now, these symbols of the zodiac were around long before Jesus was in Palestine as Jesus. So they wrote it in there as a symbol, and it's using symbology as a way of communicating. Now, I don't think, this person wrote in there, this is very silly. If you read all of Luke, that's what it is, direction, LOL. Now, if you don't know what LOL is, it definitely means laugh out loud. But anyway, the Bible usually lets you know if it's literal or figurative by context. Now, that actually made me laugh out loud when I first read it. That made me LOL. I was like, where does the Bible give any kind of disclaimer about this should be taken literally? This is more figuratively. Now, I do think that it's I could be wrong, and that's why I always say I think. I don't say it is. I do think that, and that's why I'm saying it's just my opinion, that it was written in the Bible. The person carrying the bucket of water was a symbol for the age of Aquarius. And the feast was not the Lord's Supper, but really the feast for all humanity in the coming time of the age of Aquarius is what they were talking about. But I could be wrong, I could be right, you could be wrong, you could be right. That doesn't really matter. So I don't really want to get into a big biblical argument. I still wanted to bring this up. And I also wanted to kind of bring up a humorous biblical quote. There is a friend of mine that I met through this channel. Her name is Tracy. And the other day I had mentioned to her that I like to run. So Tracy's got this kind of warped sense of humor that if you knew her, you knew what I was talking about. But anyway, I kind of like her sense of humor. But anyway, it says, she sent me a meme on Instagram, and it said, I wanted to go jogging, but Proverbs 28:1 says, quote, the wicked run when no one is chasing them, unquote. So there's that. So, Scott Gray, was that supposed to be taken literally or figuratively? I'm just kidding. No. But anyway, hopefully you find that funny. Now, I do want to end, of course, by reading one of Benjamin Creme's master's article. This is a short article, but it's pertinent to what's going on today. And the title of this article is called Humanity's Historic Choice. I've talked about it several times on this channel that I do think that future generations will look at this particular time and the people who are alive at this time as the generation of choice. We made the choice. Now, according to Maitreya, we're going to make the right choice, but we will be presented the choice, but we will make the right choice for change, and that we will be the ones that actually decide the fate of the entire planet. And the Benjamin Creme's master talks about this in this, so I'm not off base in saying that. Every generation that has ever lived on this planet has always had the equipment, the facility, the experience through incarnational experiences to deal with the problems that are faced that generation while they're alive on the planet, and because of that, has progressed humanity sometimes a lot, most of the time just a few steps here or there, a little closer to, where we're headed, I guess. Now, so everyone that's alive and in incarnation today is here because we are the ones that will make the right choice. Not all of us will agree with that. Not all of us will make the right choice, but the majority of humanity will make the right choice and listen to Maitreya's advocacy for change. Without sharing, there could be no justice. Without justice, there could be no peace. Without peace, there could be no future. Now, I did talk about the Day of Declaration not too long ago in this video, right? And this is key to this historic choice. Maitreya is going to give us that choice on the Day of Declaration. That day is a day that is like no other. It's a day that, coming up to that time, humanity will start to respond more and more to Maitreya's suggestions and start to see him as something quite extraordinary, not just an ordinary person like you or I, and will demand from our media that he be allowed to speak to everyone. And they will link up via the satellite on all the major news networks, radio networks and so forth, will be linked up in order for Maitreya to speak directly to humanity, and every single person on the planet will be able to see him at that time. Now, if you don't have a TV even, I doubt they'll want to miss it, but let's just say they did, right? They will still hear this, as long as they're above the age of 14, they will still hear their message from Maitreya inwardly in their own head. Now, somebody commented that, there'll be people that won't be paying attention to that and they'll be doing this, that, and the other. Yeah, that's not true. It'll be a day like no other. It'll be almost like the day the earth stood still and stopped rotating and time stood still, and we all were together as one humanity listening to the master of all the masters speak directly to us at one time. So even if you are, as this person posted, driving, above the speed limit and the cop stops you, let's just say that it did happen. At the time that Maitreya speaks, they will both hear his message inwardly in his own head at that time. And they'll be blown away. They will also feel Maitreya's energy at that time, because Maitreya said, as he speaks to humanity, it will be as if he embraces all of humanity. It will be as if we feel his energy, even physically. It'll also create this spontaneous miracle cure in millions of people around the world. Unexplained cures where, oh my gosh, I'm cured of AIDS or whatever, right? Cancers that were, they're on their deathbed and all of a sudden now they're totally cured. It'll be a day like no other. Now, it's just for your consideration, but I know that in time will, prove that it will actually happen. But anyway, it will happen when humanity is starting to respond enough to what Maitreya is talking about. I do think that the struggles and the economic struggles and the coronavirus and everything are going on today will help to speed up Maitreya's day of declaration. But on that day, again, let me go back to that. He will present humanity with a choice. We will see the future the way that Maitreya sees the future. We'll see that if we go in this one direction the way that we've been going in, it will end all life on the planet. And even people who, like this person who keeps posting that he's just neutral and he doesn't care and nothing else really matters, even those people will still see that future. Now, it's your choice of whether you want to go along with it and help out or not. That's totally up to you. I know for me, I want to help out. But anyway, that's just me. You choose whatever you want to choose, right? We will also see that if we do change our ways, we'll see a future like none of us have ever imagined it could be. And it will be coming from the mind of Maitreya. We will be able to see it. So it'll be very clear how important the principle of sharing really is. And only Maitreya can really present it in that way. So anyway, getting back to Benjamin Creme's master's article, Humanity's Historic Choice. Let's read it and then we'll get on out of here for today. The time for men to make their historic choice has arrived. Soon men will come to realize that they must make a momentous decision, one which will determine the future for every man, woman, and child. Indeed, the future for every living creature on earth. A choice between continuous and ever-expanding creativity on planet Earth or a devastating ending of all life, human and subhuman, on our planetary home. Man, unfortunately, has discovered the secret of the awful power which lies hidden in the nucleus of the atom and has harnessed it for war. While humanity is so separated by competition, greed, and lust for power, the danger of extinction by accident or design is ever present. Men must therefore find a safer way to live. So potent today is the individuality of men and nations, so divided have they become in their struggle for life, that they have lost their way and must quickly find it to survive. Thus the great ones, your elder brothers, have sought to show the only way to peace, only sharing and justice, we say, will bring the peace which in their hearts all men desire. Simple indeed is our recommendation, but so far difficult for humanity to grasp. Men have divine free will and are the masters of their fate. Take, we advise, the path of sharing and justice, which are the garments of brotherhood, without which a man is not fully a man. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.